Welcome to Mission Evolution Radio Show with Gwilda Wiyaka, bringing together today's leading experts to uncover ever-deepening spiritual truths and the latest scientific developments in support of the evolution of humankind. For more information on Mission Evolution Radio with Gwilda Wiyaka, visit www.missionevolution.org. And now, here's the host of Mission Evolution, Miss Gwilda Wiyaka.
Hello. Thanks for joining us on Mission Evolution. We're coming to you on X-Zone TV and Simul TV from our broadcast studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, bringing the latest evolutionary information from today's leading experts. This hour will examine true healing. A medical doctor embraces the shamanic way. Modern medicine is truly a wondrous thing. Yet many have found true healing evades them regardless of how many doctors they see or drugs they take. With the amazing complexity of the human being, can we really expect one modality to have all the answers? Are there ancient modalities that can help fill in the gaps today? With us this hour to consider other alternatives is Dr. Sharon Martin. Dr. Martin is the author of Maximize Your Healing Power, Shamanic Healing Techniques to Overcome Your Health Challenges. She holds a doctorate in physiology and worked as a research scientist as faculty at Emory University School of Medicine. Dr. Martin graduated from Johns Hopkins School of Medicine and completed a medical residency in internal medicine. She's also a certified graduate of the Healing the Light Body curriculum of the Four Winds Society, a premier training program in shamanic energy medicine. She's currently the medical director of a rural health clinic in Pennsylvania. Her website, drsharonmartin.com. Dr. Martin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for the invitation. It's nice to talk to you.
I'm sure we've got some really fun stuff to uncover here today.
Mm-hmm.
So, with your extensive background in medicine, with modern medicine, what prompted you to look into shamanism?
After seeing patients, this was about 20 years ago, I realized that mainstream medicine did not have all the answers, even though we're taught all of the scientifics and everything is supposed to be black and white. It's not black and white. There's lots of gray. And a lot of times the treatments we have to offer have side effects. The treatments we have to offer cost money. And they don't always give a sense of the healed. And so many people might have their blood pressure improved, their blood sugar improved, but they don't feel any better. And their quality of their life experience is not better. And I started asking myself, what can I do to find something more? There needs to be more.
So you mentioned sense of healed. What do you mean by that?
To me, healed is a state of well-being. So you can still have cancer and feel healed. Because if you are able to enjoy your life, to have a purpose, to interact well with the people around you, and be in harmony with your body, whatever state it's in, you can feel healed. Healed is not cure. To me, healed is not cure. But so many times in mainstream medicine, I couldn't even get my patients to feel improved. Their well-being did not increase. And it may have actually worsened because the medicines that we have nowadays for real diseases, diabetes, high blood pressure, et cetera, they cost money. So I'm looking to provide to my patients more than just a prescription. I want them to be able to feel good about, and I'll talk about this spiritually, about their soul path. That what are they here on earth for? Can we amplify their soul purpose? Can we get their feeling that that they are doing something in life, with life?
So what drew you then to the shamanic way?
I've always loved nature. I've always loved animals. So I think at my core, I'm very much in that animistic field. I believe in, even as a kid, I would sense that I could be in conversation with nature elements. But I was reading a book, Shaman, Healer, and Sage by Dr. Alberto Villoldo, and saw his picture on the cover and got one of those things I call a nudge from spirit. I got a zing. And I said, I have to explore this. And it opened up my world, my spiritual world, and my healing world, because I saw that the way the ancient medicine men and women did things had power, and people felt good when they were attended to.
Dr. Martin, would you mind defining shamanism as we'll be speaking of it here?
I'm not sure I think of it in the textbook way. Mine is more of an experiential. I'll tell you what I don't think it has to be. When we think about shamanism, we often think about Native Americans or Mongolians and masked and drumming and rattling and chanting. And I don't think today, anyway, that we have to do that to accomplish what I call shamanism. To me, a shamanic experience is where the human links up with the unseen world, with the forces of nature, with spirit, something bigger than the human self, and engages with those forces to bring about a shift in the human pathway, whether that's a healing pathway, a life outcome. And so for me, a shaman is someone who negotiates that interaction and helps the client achieve the power that can be had from linking up with the unseen, with the forces of the universe.
So the drumming and the chanting and the and fire burning and the rituals that you mentioned before, are those a one method to access this unseen world that you're talking about?
I think they're very powerful methods. I think it helps filter out your human mind. I think it helps shift you into altered state, which is very powerful and wonderful. So if you do go to a fire ceremony with drumming, you can achieve that. If you do go into a sweat lodge and achieve an altered state there. But I don't think that it's essential for that core interaction. I do think you have to be willing to, anybody has to be willing to step outside of their human mind. So whether a guided meditation, a visualization, a journey, some way you have to access where the human subconscious interacts with the universal field. And
So
I
in other
think,
words,
go ahead.
once
I'm
again,
sorry, Gwilda.
in other words, when people come to your office, you don't have to have drums and rattles and masks going on.
No, no, I don't. Is it more powerful if you have that? You could probably get there, and when I say there, I mean that space where you're linked up. You can probably get there more quickly, but you don't have to have it.
So, is there some scientific proof? I mean, you're a doctor, you're a scientist, you're a
Mhm.
researcher. Is there some scientific proof that shamanism works or exists at all?
I'm sure that there are studies, and I'm not familiar with all of them. And the people who have explored this a lot are like Larry Dossey and the power of prayer. Um, there are people who have shown these things to work. I don't rely on studies, even though I am and have been a scientist. For me, this is a very experiential. You know it when you feel it. And we don't always have a way to prove that scientifically. But this, again, is a realm that is not dependent on the strict logical materialistic reductionism. This is experiential. And when you hit a transcendent moment, there's no going back. You know it, you feel it, you know it, and it carries you forward.
As a doctor, have you seen once a person reaches that state some remarkable and measurable change?
I can say in my experience that, let's just say 100 client sessions, I would say 99.5 of them left after an hour session feeling better than when they started. And I can't say that for all the prescriptions I write. I
So
mean,
what
people feel better because you're engaging them at their deepest core subconscious and soul level. You're engaging their energy field, even if they don't know that they have one. And that is our link up to the universal field. And if shifts are made there, those shifts trickle down. So I think once you experience it, I think you're hooked. I got hooked.
So we're about out of time in this segment, but what does it look like? What does an hour session look like? Do you do that in your office? What does it look like when you're doing that?
I haven't done any lately because I'm busy launching my book. But a session is, and it can be done remotely because these are connections in the universal field, the collective consciousness. These do not have to be physically present. And the client has to be willing to, I call it suspend disbelief, be willing to just accept that they're going to be in a relaxed state, follow my suggestions, and a client will always follow what feels right to them and they won't follow what doesn't. So you don't have to worry about being taken over or being exploited by the practitioner. But if you're in that relaxed state, and then the practitioner is trained, whether it's Reiki, whether it is other energy work, whether it's shamanic work for clearing the energy field, they're trained in those techniques and they'll do what they do. And then the person can feel it. And you know that, Gwilda, from your experience.
Well, unfortunately, it's time for that commercial break, but we will pick up on this on the other side. Dr. Martin and I will return very shortly, so don't go away. This is
All
Mission
right.
Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Are you interested in evolving with the times and becoming all you can be? Don't you wish there was one place to find the latest information to help guide you through the process? I'm Gwilda Wiyaka, host of Mission Evolution Radio TV. Join me on my mission to find the latest evolutionary knowledge and tools. The guests on Mission Evolution are leading experts in a wide variety of divergent topics, including allopathic, holistic, and integrative medicine, epigenetics, enlightenment, quantum physics, meditative practices, environmental issues, spiritual evolution, trauma healing, and so much more. Mission Evolution Radio TV is aired worldwide through the X-Zone Broadcast Network, X-Zone TV Channel 32 on Simul TV. You can enjoy our archives of radio or TV shows with our compliments at www.missionevolution.org. Come see the amazing lineup of guests and topics. With more than 200 episodes to choose from, you're sure to find what you're looking for. Visit www.missionevolution.org. Hello again. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. With us this hour discussing shamanism and allopathic medicine is Dr. Sharon E. Martin. Her website, drsharonmartin.com. Sharon, I understand that you also help empower people by teaching ceremony. Where do you get these ceremonies?
I learned ceremony first from Alberto and the Four Winds Society. So those are ceremonies practiced by the Peruvian Andean indigenous cultures. They're very closely related to Native American ceremonies and probably related to many other cultures. They're the use of connecting to fire, with fire being an incredibly transformative element, and humans and fire go back thousands of years, hundreds of thousands of years. So those ceremonies directly I learned from Alberto and his senior faculty. But then I've also studied with other mystics and seers, and I've also trained as a hypnotherapist. So there are many ways to approach having yourself and the client enter a ritual, which is a ceremony is a sacred process, and it engages you at all levels. And so there's many ways you can do these.
Well, there's a big issue that's been up for quite some time, and that's appropriation of ceremony. Where do you stand on that?
It is a topic. I don't want to sound insensitive, but all of us were indigenous at some time, at some point. If we go back, if we did 23andMe or DNA or whatever, we're all indigenous. I think that, like plagiarism of other sorts, you want to make sure you acknowledge where you learned it and that that it's your style and not directly, may not be pure. But I don't think for efficacy in today's energy medicine and shamanic approaches, I don't think you have to be a purist. I think you have to be willing to enter a sacred space, which I consider linking up to spirit, to put your entire intention for your mind, body, and spirit to be present. And other than that, I'm going to stay out of that political discussion.
So the sacred space that you're talking about, is this produced ceremonially? How do you enter into that sacred space?
To me, sacred space is that sweet spot where you, as let's take a person, forget about being a practitioner or a client. You want to connect with the forces bigger than you, forces of nature, forces of the galaxy, universal field. You set an intention in doing so that you are going to be fully present. And I mean fully mind, body, spirit, energy field. That moment that you have set that aside and opened up to the connection is a very, very powerful place. It's a powerful sweet spot. It's enhanced, I believe, by having ritualistic items, by perhaps designating a spot, your altar, your meditative space, your favorite tree to sit under. That adds to your labeling this or entering into this as important. And that to me, that space where you are engaging with your helpers, I call those the forces out on the unseen world. Are they power animals? Are they your guardian angel? Are they your ancestors? Are they forces of nature, of the universe? When you are entering into relationship with that, that's a very sacred moment because you're engaging with power bigger than the human condition. And that's a beautiful, beautiful place to be.
You mention moment a lot. Does this have to do with being present in the present moment?
Yes, I didn't realize I used moment a lot. When you decide to let go of the 3D material world around you and you sit in that space, that state of being of saying, okay, I am all yours. whether if you believe in God, perhaps you're in a prayerful position and you say, okay, God, I'm here. I'm all yours. You are putting yourself in a state of being and intention, intending to connect. And then if you add a sacred site, you go to the Wailing Wall, you go to Machu Picchu, you go to Chaco Canyon. When you put yourself in a sacred site where others have gathered to do exactly the same thing, you then amplify the effectiveness and the power of what you're about to do and the dialogue, however you have it. If you speak it, you think it, you feel it.
So you also mentioned intention. How important is intention, and how can we be clear with our intention?
Intention is the magic key to unlock what you want. It is a critical and vital component of the process of engaging to change your outcome. Intention is, to me, it's a laser-focused desire. It is absolutely clear. There's no waffling. There's no wishy-wash. It speaks from your heart and your highest self. So you can have an intention that's very material world oriented, and that doesn't have the power as something that comes from you having contemplated on it when you're in meditation, engaging your heart and your sacred, your subconscious. So intention, let me back up and just say, thoughts change our energy field and change our outcome and our destiny. The way you think about something really does matter. So when you intend, you are putting every bit of your neuronal power, your deepest desire onto that laser beam, and you're aiming it at the target of what you want. And making that laser beam perfectly clear, perfectly focused. And it might take practice, but intention is a very powerful thing.
When, as in listening to you, it occurs to me that most of our intention might very well be unconscious. That being the case, does it still have impact on our lives?
Yes. In fact, I'll just share with you that before I started shamanic work, I probably did all of the, I'll say, magicking of my life in dream time when I was asleep. My human mind is busy, filled with stuff, filled with navigating the material world. As a physician, I navigate a whole lot of energies with each patient different. And so I found that things would shift for me when I wasn't even conscious of it, but I realize it's happening when I sleep.
Interesting. I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
The dream
Being
state.
aware of it, though, Gwilda, I think being aware of it gives it that it's exciting. It's you really see and can feel that you are a co-creator of your life.
So when you're conscious of your intention, you can see them manifesting. Is that the point?
I think being conscious of it does help you see when it manifests, but I don't think you have to be conscious of it to manifest. I've had a lot of serendipitous, spirit-guided changes and stepping stones in my life I would have never in my human mind predicted.
I think we can all attest to that, right?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's the mystery, isn't it?
Absolutely. So why is incorporating the mystical and spiritual important for, say, for instance, shifting a life challenge?
We want all the power we can get our hands on. And I don't mean power as in domination. I mean potential, human potential. I think mainstream medicine needs a revolution. We need to start incorporating the things that are indigenous ancestral medicine men and women did before. Their science is beautiful. I'll just say science has a lot of phenomenal things, but we have a huge piece that's been set aside because it didn't have, quote, scientific proof. And I think that's a mistake. And I think we need to incorporate those things that exist in the mystery world, that exist in our experiential world, and that exist without a study, but have been handed down for generations from our elders.
Well, we're about out of time in this segment, but are you able to incorporate both within your practice within the same person?
It's not easy. The structure of mainstream medicine doesn't leave a lot of literally time to engage the way you might want to. And it doesn't, face it, mainstream medicine has structure based on the financial requirements of the whole system. So I'll say right away, it's not easy. However, I have incorporated things that I've learned, even if I've done it within myself, in being able to see a person for their soul journey, to consider the outcome based on what I believe is a healed state, as opposed to a change in the number I'm measuring or the lab test value. And changing the perspective for the person to start to see outside of a cage that they may have built around themselves by their limiting beliefs. If I can get somebody to shift their limiting beliefs and start to see a destiny line that may not be
Well,
likely.
I'm sorry
Are
to
we out?
interrupt.
Okay,
We are
sorry.
out of time in this segment, but we will
Okay.
pick up on this on the other side of this
All
short
right.
station break. Dr. Martin and I will be right back to continue our discussion, so stay right there. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org.
So I was watching the X Zone TV channel last night when I was abducted by aliens, and they kept repeating to me over and over again, simultv.com, simultv.com.
What's simultv.com?
That's what I asked them. They had it written on the side of their UFO.
How do you spell that?
UFO.
No, I mean simultv.com.
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 Right. simultv.com.
Interesting that you were abducted by aliens in a simultv.com UFO last night.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. Now that you mention it, I remember now last night I was awakened from a deep sleep. My great-grandmother was standing there. She said she'd come from the hereafter to tell me about simultv.com. She even spelled it out for me. simultv.com, sonny boy.
simultv.com.
simultv.com, sonny boy.
Wow.
Yeah.
Guys, you'll never guess what my psychic guru just told me.
simultv.com.
Exactly. Are you guys psychic too?
Of course.
We all know about simultv.com. simultv.com.
Hi there. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. Our guest this hour is Dr. Sharon E. Martin. Her website, drsharonmartin.com. Dr. Martin, we were talking about integrating in your practice the shamanic way and allopathic medicine. And I think we ascertained that there isn't exactly an insurance code for shamanism, right?
Oh, yeah, no.
Do you see a difficulty, or do you run into a legal difficulty trying to integrate the two?
I think mainstream medicine has gone down a rabbit hole of medical legal liability. So there are going to be patients who live in that world, in that fear, and in that expectation, and I need a guarantee. And when something does not have scientific proof, in that world, for many people, you can then hold it to an absolutely unattainable status. You hold it to a level that we cannot prove it. It's two different worlds. It's apples and oranges. But I think mainstream medicine can absorb, even within this financial paradigm and the time constraints, you can absorb key elements. And that I found was helpful for me, because if I take on assessing a person and I can assess holding the possibility that what I'm seeing is not lethal, I am doing shamanic work. I am asking for all the forces that come into play to help bring it over to that maybe not probable, but still possible destiny line. And so even that is important, I think. And even seeing things from a different perspective, knowing about the energy body, you can see somebody's life force. You don't need blood tests to show you that.
So do you find that you can combine sacred space, say, for instance, in your office, which I assume would relax the person more without challenging their belief systems? And also, can you use, when you're getting all the scientific data in front of you, can you also then use shamanic knowing or shamanic information access to help with diagnosing?
So I was telling somebody this the other day, that since I studied shamanism and then explored the esoteric with other teachers, my intuition and knowing has increased exponentially. And I think we all have that potential for accessing intuitively, accessing universal truth. And then setting up space. Well, what I did a couple of years ago, and this was right at the beginning of COVID, when things were unbelievably stressful, and each encounter in the office was fraught with fear. We didn't know what this virus was going to do. So you're all gowned up and masked up and gloved up, and you're afraid of the person and afraid for them. And and then you have several people die. It keeps your fear pretty high. But I took pictures around my property. I live in a very rural area in South Central Pennsylvania. And I have a miniature donkey, and I have horses, and I have chickens, and I have dogs and cats. And I rescued 2 pygmy goats. I took pictures of these outdoor animals in the outdoors. And I put them up on these photo tiles and put them up in the office. And everybody comments on them. Everybody loves them. They say, I'm so happy to be here. I love seeing these animals. I think that is a type of sacred space. I think that engendered a good feeling, and starting off with a sense of,
How interesting, because shamanism, as I understand it, is earth-based, that it works with the power of the elements, and star-based as well. But it works with the power of the elements and the earth herself, and aligning with that is part of what brings healing. So do you see that when people are put in that kind of an environment, they're easier to treat, things come to the surface as to what needs to happen more readily?
Definitely for myself, because then I am more relaxed, not watching the clock, settling in. I do also think that the patients are connecting with nature. And Gwilda, nature is a powerful healing force. And those of us who live in cities don't always get enough of it. So yes, I think that is setting a vortex, so to speak, of let's join in these kinds of feelings, these kinds of energies. And I'm an earth girl. I love animals. I love the land.
So do you incorporate in your space, do you call upon the directions or cast a circle or work with the medicine wheel just for yourself before you start your practice of the day?
Lately, no, I've shifted to something else. On my land, yes, because I have a fire pit and I know instinctively now where the directions are. But I have started studying the magical realms lately, and I won't spend a lot of time on this side story, but on a spiritual trip to Sedona in a meditation with a spiritual group, the leader asked us to connect to creative forces of the earth, which he intuited and visualized as dragons. And I consider those creative forces of the universe, earthbound, earth-centered creative forces. There are celestial creative forces. And those energies I continue to call dragons. So nowadays, I don't do the medicine wheel as much as I engage with the dragons. And those to me are powerhouses of energies of the earth.
Are they more of a composite than just working with the directions and in their archetypal form?
Probably yes, because the directions literally are bound to a cardinal point on the compass. Dragons are ribbons. They are directions don't move. Dragons move. Dragons change. And again, if you think of them as currents of energy, which you don't have to believe in magic. You don't have to see them as dragons to feel their force. So yes, those are much more encompassing and probably taking on you could have dragons that have qualities of each of the directions built in.
So to be clear, we're not seeing something fire breathing coming down into our work so much as it's an archetype for the energies we're working with.
Gwilda, I lost you for a second. I didn't hear what you said.
That's
Could you
okay.
repeat?
I said just for clarity for our audience, you're not talking about fire breathing beasties that come down and toast us in the physical. You're talking more about an archetype that represents energies. Is that correct?
Yes, although I have interacted with dragons that are, I'll use the word fire breathing in terms of filled with power that could be harmful. But I am engaging with them as energies of deep primordial earth that are consisting and engaging in creation. This is what I think our indigenous dreaming cultures linked with. This is how the Aboriginals dreamed with these forces. I think these forces exist out in Southwest United States in many of the sacred sites. So I don't see them as, although there are lethality, forces of lethal and not necessarily beneficial intent. I met some of those in Iceland. So there are forces that could harm humans, but I don't engage with those.
So let's back up just a little bit, and we are just about out of time in this segment.
Okay.
But when you're working in your office, and I take it that you're also trained in shamanic healing, and not just the access points. when you're working in your office and you suddenly get a feeling, man, this person's illness is really spiritual based, and they really could use some spiritual healing versus what I offer as a physician. How do you approach that?
So that happens a lot. I can see a drain in their life force, and I can see stuck energies. And then I say, I want to share something with you that is not scientifically based. It's my spiritual and philosophical belief, but your life force is not flowing fully. People get it. They get it. And then just say, I don't, I don't know how I would take it exactly, but say, let's get you some power to have you go forward in life the way you want to, because you're stuck, or you feel, I see burdened, I see heaviness. Oh yeah, I feel like I'm weighed down. People get it.
And then do you set up a session where you're working strictly spiritually or shamanically?
I haven't offered that directly. The people who are interested ask, and then I point them to my website. But in that moment, I don't feel, and perhaps it's got still a little fear of the medical legal. I don't come right out and say, come work with me in this other arena. But I
Right.
do say, here, I think you could clear your energy field, and here's how you can do it.
Gotcha.
Here's
Well,
how you can take a problem to the fire.
we're going to have to take another commercial break, but please stay with us as Dr. Martin and I continue to explore ancient and modern healing. This is Mission Evolution, www.missionevolution.org. Do you have a product or service you'd like to promote to a worldwide audience? Imagine your product featured on Mission Evolution Radio TV. If you're interested in showcasing your work, Mission Evolution is broadcast to the X-Zone TV Channel 32 Simul TV, on the X-Zone Broadcast Network, YouTube, iTunes, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, Audible, and many other audio and social media platforms. Our professional studios can produce and broadcast your custom high-quality ad. It will be permanently embedded in each episode and featured in the archives for years to come. Together, we can make it happen. Contact us at info@missionevolution.org for more details. Spaces are limited, so don't miss out on this great opportunity. Email info@missionevolution.org today. Welcome back. This is Mission Evolution, missionevolution.org. This hour, our expert guest is Dr. Sharon E. Martin. Her website, DrSharonMartin.com. I'd like to change gears just a little bit, but we've been dancing around it. So would you just explain, what is energy medicine?
Let me back up just a little bit and define. Each person has an energy field that exists. It's maybe people see it as an aura. And I believe that's our connection to the universal field. So to me, energy medicine is where you work within that field, the individual field. But most of the time, I can probably say this for all the energy practitioners I'm aware of, you are engaging access to the quantum, to the universal field. That's where all of the templates for how our body should work, it's where the answers are. So energy medicine can be techniques operating with the person's individual field, but it can also be intentionally connecting to the universal field.
So let me see if I understand this.
Okay.
So if a person has energetic illness,
Okay.
that would indicate something in their field is not aligned with the templates that you find at the universal field. Is that where we're going with this?
I think that's true, yes. Um, each species has, I believe, I don't know if I have any proof, but each species has an original biological, the way it's supposed to be. The human body has a way it's supposed to be. People who have energetic illness, they may have errors, contamination, clogged up places in their energy field, which is where their physiology downloads from. So when you clear that, to me, you're clearing the connection to be able to download the original universal healed state better.
So it trickles down. In other words, if there's illness in the energy field, eventually it manifests physically.
Yes.
Okay. So how's that? How do you achieve that? I mean, we're talking, um, theory here, but what's the logistics? What does that look like when you're doing it for someone?
So take the Peruvian shamanism that I studied. There are techniques to clear the energy field and bring in new and higher vibrating energies. It's taught as a process called illumination. There are extraction techniques, clearings where you can, the practitioner can pull out either fluid contamination from the field or a fixed dense contamination. So those are ways. The Andean medicine men and women had actual processes. Now, I don't know that you could say the same for in terms of a process from, say, a Mongolian shaman, but I believe that they are doing the same thing just in a way that I haven't learned and may not actually show actually working in the energy field. They may be in an altered state, communicating with the universal field on behalf of their client. They may not be actually showing in the literal world that they're working on the field.
Showing in the you mean that you
They
can't
may
tell
not
what they're
be
doing?
right. They may not be doing a process with the client lying down and you're clearing the field or working on the chakra systems. They may be in an altered state, communing with the collective, the universal consciousness.
At the same time, they're communing with the client.
Correct. Mhm.
Okay. So it's kind of invisible in that case.
Right. So you might not think that anything's going on.
So is that considered working without permission?
I think, yes, you can have people who work without permission, which is a big ethical no-no in my opinion. But I think in the case, and I'm just using my limited knowledge of Mongolian shamanism, the client went to them and paid them for a session, brought vodka, brought tobacco. So in that sense, they have permission.
So let's bring, fast forward to the modern world.
Mhm.
Um, how do we know we have permission if you're sitting in your office and you're talking to someone, but you're also working on the other level? How does that work? How do you stay clean there?
I make the assumption that when a person's coming to me as a patient, that they have asked me to provide medical and healer support. If I'm going to ask them to do anything, I preface it by saying, here's what I believe. I can show you something. Do you want to know? Where for me it's unethical is I can walk down the street and see something that I see as really obviously energetic. And let me back up and say many people have empathy and sympathy and compassion. And so they see and they go, oh, okay, that poor person, I'm going to pray for them. Well, prayer is in effect an energy exchange. I do not think you should engage with someone else's energy field without permission. And luckily, I believe there's a spiritual law that is in place that says our energy fields are sovereign. So I think there is some safety mechanism. But just because you're compassionate and you want to help doesn't mean you should.
That brings a whole new light on prayer groups, doesn't it?
I don't think now people who are in a church group, they know prayer group is going to meet. That it's a perhaps unspoken permission. But it's
But then
when
there's the
go
other
ahead.
other side of it when they're working on someone outside of their parish, um, like
I
bring them
remember
to the light kind of thing. Yeah.
sitting in a conference. I forget where I was, but it was a shamanic and energy conference, and the two women next to me were upset with a particular speaker, and they decided amongst themselves, I could hear them talking, that they were going to energetically fix that.
Mm.
That to me is a huge no-no. That's black medicine. That's bad juju. I don't believe into am I always 100% ethical? If I'm not, I'm not aware. I try my very best to be clean.
Well, it sounds like we really kind of need to reframe a lot of things once we start incorporating the understanding of the power of energy.
Yes, you may not be a blues fan, but Joe Bonamassa is like this amazing blues guitarist. And he has a song. I was actually listening to it on the way here today. Just because you can don't mean you should.
Exactly. Exactly. So this is about the portion in the program where I have to ask,
Mhm.
Dr. Martin, what is your mission?
To help people know that they are more than they think they are, and that they have power, particularly when it comes to healing themselves and changing their destiny. And that's what my work and my book was all about, is to give you the tools to help shift a health challenge, and it could be a life challenge as well.
So then these are through using shamanic principles. Is that accurate?
Yes, and perhaps other mystery school esoteric principles.
Hmm.
I'm
Hmm.
not a purist in the shamanic world.
Whatever it takes, kind of thing, right?
I love when you pull it all together and the power that you get from that. Why wouldn't we want to bring it all in?
Speaking of bringing it all in, we're still kind of in a betwixt and between place when you're looking at the traditional. Well, it's not traditional medicine. Let's say the allopathic medicine
Mhm,
and the more esoteric medicines.
mhm.
What's your vision there? How do you think we can pull it together, or do you
At
think we can?
I think we have well, I think we have to. At the very least, have our young medical students and residents start to understand the energy field and start to understand our interconnectedness as humans through consciousness and our interdependence on the earth and its creatures. That, if just that understanding alone could shift a whole lot. And then you can add in, can they do other techniques? But I don't think you have to know those processes to actually do them as a healer. If your perspective changed and you were more aware of the interconnectedness and that there is truth to be had in the universal field, just that awareness alone would shift so much.
I mean, we're just about out of time altogether,
I
but it occurs to me that one of the things that might have to shift is this control of the insurance companies, whereby your medical doctors spend more time on a keyboard in front of you than they do palpating your problem, much less connecting shamanically. How
It's a
can that
broken
shift?
system. It's a
Mm.
broken system. I would love to see us be out of the financial overlay is so horrific.
It's
Um,
it's it's killing our doctors. They're so
mhm.
frustrated.
and the costs of prescriptions. There are fabulous medicines. Now, I see people whose health problems are like the horse is already out of the barn. So I have to use medicines. I'm past prevention at this point.
Right.
But those prescriptions are so expensive, and yet there's some amazing medicines. So
Absolutely.
we have to shift that too.
Well, that it is that time that we are out of time. Dr.
Okay.
Martin, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Gwilda, thank you for having me. I enjoyed it.
It's been a real pleasure.
Yes, for me too.
Our guest this hour has been Dr. Sharon Martin, the author of Maximize Your Healing Power, Shamanic Healing Techniques to Overcome Your Health Challenges. Her website, drsharonmartin.com. This has been Mission Evolution with Gwilda Wiyaka. For more information or to enjoy past archived episodes, visit our website at www.missionevolution.org. And please, be sure to join us right here next time as this mission continues, bringing information, resources, and support to our evolving world.